For those of you who have been watching me for years, you've all heard me tell you that I don't go to church, okay? You've all heard me talk against the church. Not the version of the church that exists, church, okay? I wanted to make that plain so that no one will have any wrongful comprehended aspersions. I'm saying the church should be disbanded and dismissed. Let me say this. This morning, by now, all of you have heard a video that Candace Owens, when she's speaking about Bella Hadid, which is one of my favorite models, actually. I like their look. And she was talking about how she's making a comparison of the people that call themselves the Jews, and how they basically were refugees coming to people's houses, and then other groups of people decided, because they were dark-skinned people, or darker-skinned people, they're not dark-skinned people, to give them their land. Okay? And that's how the Jewish institution began, right? And so one of the things that I'm extremely irritated about was my father died believing that those people over there were God's chosen people, when he actually was God's chosen person. Okay, believing that the people that were in Egypt were the people there now, the Arab people, which aren't even really Arab people. That wasn't even a name at the time, but they were us. It was always us. Okay, here's my point, church. I heard a very, very convincing argument this morning from a young, seemed to be, even though he was an American minister, he was African in descent. You can tell from his dialect. Very well spoken. I'll try to paraphrase what he said. He said that there are influencers, which I consider myself one. I have a lot of people that follow me all over the place looking for me when they can't find me, who are making compelling arguments about the church. And I'll tell you again, I'm paraphrasing. He basically said we need to get out ahead of this. And he didn't make it seem like, okay, get out ahead of it and control it or change the aspersions as if they weren't true, but to actually address some of the sicknesses that are coming out of the church. All right? Instead of just keep quoting scripture and in front of the people evolving, like I spoke about Kirk Franklin. I'm a fan of Kirk Franklin, not his music, what he's evolving into, a real person. Okay? I don't like what he's doing because people shouldn't heal in front of you and tell you how to get well. I'm vehemently against that. I can't tell you guys how to get strong and I'm weak, or I've never been strong, or I've never been successful. I can't tell you how to build a company if I've never done it. That doesn't even make any damn sense. Now I can be a teacher, right? But healing the soul is a whole different thing once it's been broken, and specifically since the church is breaking it. Now, some of you will say, well, how does the conversation with the minister and how does Candace Owens' conversation correlate? Well, if you listen to Candace Owens' story, she's saying, I believed a bunch of bullshit for a long time, and I got online and quoted it. But now that I know the truth, I'm responsible for it. And I applaud her for that, because she said something I've been telling you guys for years. You think you can believe a truth because it's convenient for you, which is what all Caucasian people did. It was convenient for them, for black people to be less than them. It was convenient for them, for the Indians to be less than them. And now even Mexicans See, it was convenient for them to be prejudiced against black people, but now they want us to come together with them. And why are they angry? I see construction workers rolling their eyes at me now. I had to check one the other day. They really believe that black people are meant to sacrifice themselves for everybody. So just like the church is beginning to see we waking up, other people are too. Why do I say throw away the church altogether? Because none of that shit is true. And I'm not going to wait until these inconvenient evolutions evolve in people. Fuck that shit. I'm going to wait till you want to tell the truth? Get the fuck out of here. Some of you even say, well, why do these people get on TV? Why did Ted Cruz, who know that, look, an educated man, I think Ted Cruz went to Harvard. He knows that's not true, and he gets on TV. And Tucker Carlson, I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson either, called him out. That shit ain't true. Stop saying that. But you got rednecks all over the place that believe that because it's convenient for them to always be in a war. Being in war causes them or makes them believe they're dominating people. I'm calling black people, this is why I say that. Separate yourself from all that shit and find God for yourself. You don't need to create a new religion. You don't even need to have religion. All you need is God. David Banner said something surprisingly compelling. He said that, well, I'm going to say it like I say it. He said somewhere, but I say it this way. If you worship somebody else's God, you also worship their demons. You also worship their demons. Now, I'm not misguided. I know there's only one God. I know that other people's perspectives on that one God are all the same. I know that those people don't speak against other people's gods, but one group does. At some point, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And you have to decide, are you worshiping God? Or are you worshiping the devil? Or are you worshiping white people? Remember, convenience. Oh, I'm educated, so that's why I do this and that. No. You can be educated and still be black. You can. Listen, I have no need for the church. I don't need to convene and call it church. I can convene it with a bunch of, I don't care if they're Christians, Muslims, whatever. The actions of the people determine to me whether they love God or not. And some of you that are so locked into Christianity and Muslim and Hindu, whatever you are, one day you're going to recognize people are people. They're either good or bad. And everything they are is based on what they do. What they do. Not what people said they did. Because that can be stories too. I often go back to the Sean Combs story. Can I tell y'all something? Sean Carter's story is no different than Sean Combs. Actually, I believe personally, Sean Carter's story is worse than Sean Combs. And what do I mean by that? I think Sean Carter is significantly more a sellout than Sean Combs. Why do I say that? It correlates. Convenience causes you to submit yourself to things. Don't let convenience allow you to worship the devil when you think you're worshiping God. Because the actions of the people that you following, worshiping, and want to be like, black or white, are going to determine if you see God We're not talking about heaven or hell. We're talking about being in God's presence.
We were robbed of our original religions so long ago, we have forgotten what those religions were. And once we go back to the original base of our religions, before Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, and when we go back to those religions were based on spirituality, and the God concept of those religions, of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, came out of what I refer to as pre-God religions. I don't use that anymore because people don't understand what I mean about pre-God religions. They're so accustomed to the word God, they cannot understand that there was a time when man thought of a force in the universe presiding over the universe, and while he meant God, he did not use the word God, and man had more spirituality before he consistently used the word God. He used the God force and the God concept without using the word. He meant the same thing, and ultimately Western man interpreted that as meaning the same thing. But at this period, when everything was an all-encompassing, all-conclusive, man had not created, the Africans in the great river civilizations had created a religion that was so all-conclusive. It was not a weekend Jimmy Swaggart type of religion. It was a kind of religion that touched your total being. It wasn't a Sunday religion, a weekend religion. It was part of your totality, your morality, your dress, your diet, your marriage, your total human being. And it dictated everything. And this is why at this period in human history, man did not have a word for jail, because no one had ever gone to one. No word for orphanage, because no one had ever thrown away any children. No word for old people's homes, because no one had ever discarded grandma and grandpa. Man was truly religious, too religious to shirk his responsibility in any way. I'm saying that was a truly great religious period of man. But once these foreign clowns began to organize and misinterpret what the great Nile Valley African thinkers had, and began to slap names on them, and began to make political and military use of them, that's why the whole thing went wrong.
They gave you the Bible, but not the whole Bible. They told you it was the Word of God, but they edited it with the hands of men. They baptized your body and enslaved your spirit, and they said, obey, don't question, don't resist. But here's the truth. You weren't born Christian. You were converted at gunpoint, and the version they gave you was missing pages. It's not about hating the Bible. It's about asking, who gave it to us? What did they remove? And why did they fear us knowing the rest? Because when you read the scriptures they hid, you'll see your ancestors didn't serve their God. They walked with the divine, free, powerful, and unchained. They stole your temple. They burned your tongue. They renamed your God, but not your soul. Your soul remembers, and it's time to return to the truth.
If you really want to know the truth about anything, stop asking yourself, who are the real Jews according to the Bible? And ask yourself this about everything. Who are the real anything or any group of people based on history? The Bible is not the absolution of God, and it's definitely not the absolution of history. There is so much incorrect history in the Bible that essentially the Bible, if it was mitigated, wouldn't even exist. So stop fucking saying that.
Holy ground is where you stand. This is one of the problems we got. We thinking that the continent of Africa is the origin, or thinking that the continent of Africa is the home of black people. No, the whole planet is the home of black people. And when you see them Olmec heads over here, that tells you, baby, this land is yours. So that's another myth that we done bought into. And let me put it this way. Those same people who said that they went to Africa and they had a spiritual experience, they could go to Vietnam and produce the same spiritual experience, because the spiritual experience is inside of your body. So that's why the spirit world says holy ground is where you stand, because the temple is inside of you, not no geographic mass. So the point I'm trying to make here is, don't get brought up in that continental bullshit, because that is the plain lie. You see, and the Olmec heads in America show you that, baby, this is your land. When you go to Vietnam and you see them big black wide-lipped things in the temple of Angkor Wat, they tell you, baby, this is your land. When you go to China and you see black Buddhas with peppercorn hair and looking like Leroy Brown on the corner in Dayton, Ohio, that's telling you, baby, this is your land. You see what I'm saying? When you go to Europe and find black figures all over the place, they're telling you, baby, this is your land. That is one of the dupes. And you know that was all invented in an African heritage organization in the 1800s that the charted in Britain. They said, look, we have to make the black man a continental Negro other than a global Negro. So going to Africa it can be a personal experience, but no more personal experience if you had the knowledge to go to China. Because remember, it was one landmass and one people. This whole planet is ours. And whenever you go all over this planet and you see them black figures everywhere, it means that Holy Grand is not just subjugated to Africa. You see what I'm saying?
Who were these people? Is that Biggie? What are these? Gargoyles? Looks like Statue of Liberty face. Come on. Come on, people. Come on. And look at these two. The attention to details to the nose. Who are they and what are they trying to tell us? Sound off in the comments. The Woolworth building. Does it make sense? Make it make sense.
You guys know about the Scofield Bible? Oh boy, here's a rabbit hole for you. Here's a rabbit hole for all of us. In the early 1900s, right around when the Federal Reserve was founded and the Balfour Declaration happened, right at that exact same time, the Rothschild family hired this dude, this pastor in the Deep South. He made a new version of the Bible called the Scofield Bible. He wrote this new Bible that has all these new interpretations of the text. So they didn't change.
Jewish influence.
Yes, literally. That's where Judeo-Christianity kind of came from. And the idea that Israel is this modern Israel thing is the Israel of the Bible. It came from that Bible. And the Scofield Bible was funded by the Rothschild family. And then it was pushed because they owned the publisher that publishes like all the books. I think it was Oxford Press. And so they had the deals that they could make to get that Bible into all the mega churches across whole denominations of Christianity. And so that was when Christianity got kind of Jewified.
If church is about God, do this test. Everybody in the church and everybody that go to church, stop paying tithes for 2 months and watch where your pastor go. Whatever his degree in, that's what he gonna do. Church ain't about God. Church is about enrichment. And that's beginning to be why most people go. They want to be enriched like the pastor. One of my pastors said something so stupid. He said, y'all got to see me be rich to be rich. I immediately left that church. I already had money. The issue is this. You better start serving God and stop serving the world. There's nothing wrong with making money. Okay? And they are synonymous. But church is useless.
White churches have not just been supported by white supremacy, they have served as its headquarters. I know you don't want to hear that. They have taught white people that oppression is godly and that power belongs to us by divine right. After the civil rights movement, powerful white people, men, saw that their grip was slipping. Black people were winning court cases. Poor people were organizing. Women were demanding rights. How dare we? LGBTQ people were coming out of their closets, and the foundations of white male dominance were cracking. So they thought, what can we use that no one will question? In 1979, Jerry Falwell founded the Moral Majority. He said it was about championing family values. That was a lie. The real trigger was that the IRS had begun revoking tax exemptions for whites-only Christian schools. Those whites-only schools were created specifically to avoid integration. Falwell's own school, Liberty Christian Academy, was one of them. The platform of the Moral Majority ended up getting built around the issue of abortion. Although that wasn't the original plan, they basically test drove different topics to see which ones would resonate the most with the audience they needed to capture, which was white Americans, white Christian Americans. It had everything to do with maintaining the right to discriminate, yet still enjoy government benefits. This guy named Paul Weyrich, who was a conservative political strategist, he teamed up with Falwell to build a political base. He admitted that abortion had not really motivated white evangelicals until it became politically useful. Their real grievance was losing control over who could sit in their classrooms, walk into their churches, and live in their neighborhoods. Once they realized that abortion could mask their racial panic, they made that their headline issue. They built a movement that turned pulpits into propaganda platforms. Sunday services became political strategy sessions. That's illegal. You're not supposed to be able to do that at a church if you're getting tax exemption. Ministers told white families that their enemies were not the wealthy elites exploiting their labor. They were not the politicians cutting their wages and stealing their pensions. The churches pointed to the poor, the black, the brown, the queer, the immigrant. Those people are the ones that are taking food out of your children's plate. They told white people they were being persecuted every time they were asked to share. And yes, I understand what it means for me to say this out loud. I know what it means to say that the church, something which is so sacred to so many, has been a central engine of the immoral institution of white supremacy. I know this will upset people. The white church has stood on the wrong side of every fight for justice in this country. Every one. During slavery, it defended human ownership. During Jim Crow, it defended lynching and segregation. Christian church members attended lynchings and brought their children to steep them in that evil. During the civil rights movement, it defended denying benefits to black people. During the rise of Trump, it defended cruelty in the name of religious liberty, as if Trump has a clue. Some churches resisted, yes. There are liberal churches who have a strong history of being on the right side of these issues, but most didn't. Most chose comfort. Even now, white churches help elect leaders who lie, steal, incite violence. They wage war on education. They call justice wokeness as an insult. They are consuming a message that keeps them at the center with the elite in their minds. They choose white power over compassion, over empathy. One share shows you care about setting the record straight. Please share. Next time, I am going to talk about how Donald Trump did not hijack this system. He was groomed into it.
I'm just as excited about Jesus.
Et je suis juste excité
Right
de
here,
Jésus.
right now.
Jusqu'à présent, même maintenant.
And when I get excited,
Et quand je suis excité,
I want to dance.
je veux danser.
And what Jesus did for me.
C'est que Jésus a fait pour moi.
Jesus is God.
Jésus est
Almighty
Dieu.
God.
C'est le Dieu
He
puissant.
saved my life.
Il a sauvé ma vie.
I'm excited about God.
Je suis excité de
And
Dieu.
I want to worship Him.
Et c'est pourquoi je l'adore.
Because He's coming again. And he's
Jésus, il
excited.
revient encore.
And He's got plans. He's
Il
got
a
plans
de plans
and purposes
et le dessein
for each one of you
pour chacun de vous ici.
and for me.
Et pour moi aussi.
If you're an intelligent brother or sister, you ask yourself the question, after your experience in the United States, and most of you who's saying it's so great never experienced anything else. So you really have no comparative analysis. You ask yourself, how can America raise young men that are so passionate and provoked about going to war and protecting this country? And I don't know, most intelligent people ask themselves, what are they protecting America from? And this is on the day of 9/11. We know that nobody perpetrated 9/11 but our own government. We know that, right? If you do enough research, it's ridiculous. It goes without saying. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. Here's the thing about it. You've been raised under a regime of people that live in fear of going to war that never happens. I don't know anyone that's tried to provoke, since I've been born, a war with the United States. Every engagement we have is us going somewhere. Oh, Cubans are putting, the Russians are putting missiles in Cuba. What do they have to do with us? I know look, I know with your own indoctrination, which is the point of this whole communique, you think what you've been told to think. Well, if they get this, that, and that. Well, America has literal military bases in other people's countries and continents, everywhere in the world, right next up to their supposed to be enemies that they created. Nobody's trying to bother the United States. So when you ask yourself the question, black people, when you ask yourself all those questions, how can somebody be so motivated by something that's not happening, not true, never will happen? Then you ask yourself the same question about the Bible. Why do you believe something that you were given and you have no absolute evidence of, but you're so passionate about and has never benefited you? Now, I didn't say God, I said the Bible. Because listen, you really think a good heart, everywhere in the world, God is looking at them. Okay? So you think this changed you, but it's amazing how you got back in the world or in the system you lived in, it was against you. Like, why do you think all these men said, and I'm giving another war example, when black men went off the war, they came back, people treated them like shit. But they expected to be treated better. Right? You can be so passionate about something because it's been generationally passed to you. And the reason I'm saying all that is you can be passionate in something that ain't true, has no value to you, and is not real at all. It's important you get on your knees, you close your eyes and you don't see that white man on that picture, and that you talk to the God of the universe, the God that moves with his Holy Spirit, and you say, show me what's real and what's not. Show me what's real and what's not. Even your reality can be communicated to you. Your reality can be given you. This is why I teach all my mentees, don't let me or anybody else give you perspective. We think perspective means let me paint this picture for you, but it literally doesn't mean that. It means let me construct your thought process. Not Let me speak. Because this is what it's supposed to mean when I say lay my own perspective. It's supposed to be let me lay my own perspective of what I think the situation is. Not give you the perspective to run with. See, if I give you perspective, I can change it. It can change it. You really believe that some of these non-black folk in church isn't looking at Ed Young when he said, hold on a second. How can everybody be included, but you talking about woke? Woke ain't in the Bible. And woke is associated with, it started off just with black people, but now everybody's involved. That's fine. Everybody stood on our shoulders before. But I need you to think about that. Don't let anybody give you perspective. And you need to know if what you believe is true. You need to know if what you believe is true. I'm going to tell you this. When I stopped trying to see the Bible as God, and I started seeing the Bible as a book that may have some good principles once I get past all the BS that Europeans have put in there, and the Europeans have manipulated, and the reality of what exists. But I got to see it as principle and not God. Most of you believe the Bible is God, just like those young, unfortunate rednecks believe that everybody's trying to go to war with us. You can't tell them everybody's not going to try to go to war, and that's how you believe the Bible.
It's important because all religious subjects are important, all political subjects are important, because all of them need to be reappraised in the light of reality, because we have not faced reality, because we as a people live in a world of fantasy. And once we face reality and use religions properly, and once we understand how they are used by other people, and once we separate, not so much as separate spirituality from religions, and understand that out of our spirituality came the world's religions, and that we have been naive and let people take from us the basis, the elements, make religions and come back and sell them to us. Once we understand that, and that we had a much better version of the same religions before their former creation, then once we recover from the shock of discovering that we had something better than what was sold to us, rehashed from our elements, then go back and take the great spirituality we had and move with it. And once we understand what we were and where we are, we will understand what we have to be and where we still have to go. We are still thinking minority when we were never a minority. But we are letting minority people fool us into thinking minority. And we are literally being controlled by minorities who endear themselves to other minorities by demonstrating their ability to control us. And they control us by manipulating images through politics, religion, in the mass media. All right, the subject admittedly is dangerous. As religion is a delicate and dangerous subject, and it's even more delicate and dangerous when you're talking to people of African descent. Because where religion is concerned, we are a purist people. We are the true believers. We out-pope the Pope and out-Muhammad. We believe in things in its purest form, and we actually believe things are exactly what they say they're supposed to be. We have a humanity that actually makes us believe that people believe in democracy, and the inventors of it don't believe in it. And we had democracy before they think they invented it. And when they invent a fake version of it and sell it to us, we accept the fake version and neglect the genuine democracy that we have been living all along. Not only democracy, but humanity. We have had a historical fascination for ideas that come from the outside, and this has been our trap. And we have not studied those people who sell us fake trinkets, fake ideas, fake government forms, and rehash our religions that we invent in the first place. Now, all of the elements that went into the making of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam came out of Africa. And you have to distinguish between the elements and the formal organization of the religions themselves. The religions began to decline when outsiders, foreigners, took over those elements, organized them for their own political purpose, gave them a name, and began to project them to the world for their political purpose. Then the outsider created a religion, but he forgot the African substance, and the African substance was spirituality. Because if you have spirituality, you can use any one of them or none of them. Because the African spirituality encompassed the essence of all of them. The white man has religion, but he has no spirituality. Then you must study and understand the difference between Islam and Arabism, something which is difficult for black people to understand. The Arab did to Islam what the white man did to Christianity. He subtracted the spirituality and made it a political instrument for his opportunism. But when it came over to the African accepted the spiritual aspect of it and forgot that to the Arab it was then and still is a political game, and that the spiritual aspect left him very early, and that he was then and is now playing a game, and that the spiritual aspect never touched him. And if you listen with me with some kind of patience, I will show you exactly what I mean, because if you see that it was the African who used this religion spiritually, and it was the Arab who used it politically. It is the African who still uses it spiritually, and it is the Arab who still uses it politically. If you look at the present-day Sudan, where the Arabs have declared war on African cultures, and he not only while he has declared war on African cultures, he's eating bacon, drinking scotch, and patronizing European whores. That's right. He is as holy as a dog. And yet, you can go to Egypt and order scotch, bacon, or anything you want from the West, including a Western woman, and you can go to an African country that is Muslim, and if you order scotch, you might be put in jail. I am saying that Senegal, a Muslim African country, is more Muslim in its practice of the faith than Saudi Arabia. And you have African countries, because Africans in general believe in the spirituality of the religion, and while the Arabs practice the political aspect of the religion, devoid of spirituality. And it is the African side of Islam that has used it for spirituality. It was the African side of Islam, and the African side of Islam alone, that has used it as a rallying cry for social reform and revolutionary change.
You think if you don't have Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, you don't have to have spirituality. I've got more spirituality after I put all of them down. And I've got more religion after I put all of them down.
Communicate directly.
Now, Dr. Clarke, what is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Religion is an artificial form that came later when man organized spirituality into forms and denominations, into concepts. And each group tried to prove that their concept was the true concept and the one most entitled to prevail. Now you see hypocrisy entering spirituality and killing its meaning. Now spirituality is the recognition of the spiritual force of the universe and the recognition of your relationship toward all living things and your responsibility toward all living things. I have examined a lot of African indigenous belief systems, and most of them are based on African spirituality as against religions. And spirituality, you do not discriminate. Your wife can belong to one version of it, you can belong to another, and there's no conflict between you based on that. And this was carried over into the United States because it within my own...
When you find out King Charles owned the Bible copyright...
What's wrong, dude? Well, hell no, God, hell no. Oh my God, hell no, buddy. No, you gotta be fucking lying.
What's wrong, dude?
Well, hell no, God, hell no. Oh my God, hell.
We don't have the original manuscripts of the New Testament. We don't have the original manuscripts of the New Testament. They all disappeared within a century, I'm pretty convinced, by copying and copying and copying, frequent handling.
The data indicate that there are no eyewitness accounts of Jesus' life in the New Testament, that the four Gospels were written and originally circulated anonymously, and that traditional authorship was only secondarily assigned toward the end of the 2nd century CE. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. And what I'm sharing is not my own argument, it is the state of the field. And the state of the field acknowledges that a close reading of the Gospels does not turn up a single first-person claim to being an eyewitness to Jesus' life.
Here are 4 ways that the English translations of the Bible may have changed the origin story of Eve. The first is the translation of Eve coming from Adam's rib bone. What the text actually says is that Eve came from a side of Adam. So in rabbinic literature, you'll see this imagined as Adam and Eve being split from equal halves. The second is the translation of Eve being made as a helper for Adam. The Hebrew word here is actually closer to the word rescuer. Then you may remember the line in English that as a punishment, Eve's desire will be for her husband. But other translations, like the ESV, say that Eve's desire will be contrary to her husband. And lastly, there's that popular idea that painful childbirth is the result of the curse of sin. But the plain interpretation of the text is that there will be difficulty in conception.
Ladies, all I'm gonna ask is, who do you think made those translations?
Holy hell, kid.
Don't hate white people for their manifest destiny. They did what they had to do. They didn't have anything. They had no education, and I'm talking about throughout history. That's why they were always infighting. But you need to realize their manifest destiny for everyone else was a scam and didn't involve anyone with our color. Black people have had dreams, they have hopes, they're expecting a savior, but they've never had a plan. The reason they hadn't had a plan because they're afraid. They're afraid to go to war. Now, I've told you all to read the book, Art of War by Sun Tzu. If you read it, you'll recognize the phase that black people are in. Black people are in the first phase and haven't moved past it. We're still in the rule of moral law and hadn't moved forward. We need a plan, and the plan, first part of the plan is to make money.
Yeah.
Life Changers on Amazon. This will change your life. You need a plan. You don't need motivation. Motivation is something that you have within you. Motivation is something that God gives you. But without a plan, you're going nowhere.
First chapter of The Art of War is titled Laying Plans. Sun Tzu starts it off by stating that knowing how to wage war is essential to the survival of a state. He then gives 5 constant factors that he deems a successful general will understand. First is moral law. This is essentially how loyal the soldiers are to their leader and cause. Second is heaven. This is the time, weather, and season. Third is earth. This is the terrain on which the battle will be fought. Fourth is the leader and the leader's virtues. And fifth is method and discipline, which encapsulates the division of the army, the training of the army, the rules of the army, and even the method of getting supplies for the army. Sun Tzu then gives 7 considerations with which he can predict the outcome of a war, but you'll just have to go find those yourself. He then ends the chapter with one of the most significant pieces of advice. All war is deception. Never let your enemy know the truth.
What percent of the world's population is white?
63, 42,
51,
70,
40,
30 or 20,
70,
80,
24%,
70, 20, 30,
43,
24,
20, 30,
80%.
0.
What if I told you it was 7%?
7%?
Only 7%?
Only 7%?
Yeah.
No
The
way.
whole world.
Your white people are like top of the world.
7%.
7?
What?
7 to 8% is what?
Hang on. That's not true.
It's true.
No, it's not.
It's below 10%.
Nah, that's both.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's 7.
Shit. And I'm about to be a teacher.
Ah,
Don't learn from me, brother.
You're
taking the piece, bro.
No, it's a real... It's below 10%. Some estimates put it 7 to 8%.
What's this 6 on? I'll change.
Ozpill.
Yeah, Ozpill. Yeah. Wait, post me, yeah?
Yeah, you'll say.
So the question was, out of the entire world's population, what percentage is white? There are people who said 60, 80. Somebody even said 90. Do you know what the real answer is? It's 7%. 7%. That means they don't even have the numbers to keep up white supremacy. What that means is either we're letting them keep it up or we're actively helping them keep it up because they don't have the manpower to do it by themselves. What if we all collectively said, I don't want to be in a place or support the ideas of white supremacy? It would be over.
I use the words people of the global majority because language and words matter. They have power. In lieu of minorities or people of color, because when you say minorities or people of color, that centers whiteness, when in fact people of the global majority make up 85% of the world's population. So just remember that. There's more of us. There's more of us.
Just your regular reminder that Europe is not a continent despite what you get taught at school. It is an ideological construct of imperialism. Let me explain. And if you're new here, my name is Ollie. I'm a professor of human geography, so I know about this sort of stuff, okay? So a continent is a large landmass, not an island, but a landmass surrounded by large bodies of water. And so Europe isn't a continent. Eurasia is the continent because Europe connects to Russia, connects to India and China, and all the way into Southeast Asia. So Europe, as we currently understand the idea of a continent, isn't one. So why do we call it a continent? Well, it goes back to the ancient Greeks. Millennia ago, when they became a seafaring, trading empire, essentially, they travelled in different directions, obviously to the west through the Mediterranean, and they had different kinds of trade with those people than they did if they travelled east through the Dardanelles and up through the Bosphorus in modern-day Istanbul towards the Black Sea. And actually, it was the differences in trading which meant that they had different names. To the east was Asia, and to the west was Europe. Of course, that gets enshrined in further empires, like in the Roman Empire and indeed the European empires, the French and the Spanish and British and everything else. But of course, what happens is that the trading routes still exist, and the trading routes with Asia, because of the rich resources over in Asia, all the spices and the sugars and everything else, they become part of the power play. And so the Europeans want to dominate that land, and so they carve it up ideologically. And of course, race is a massive part of this as well. It enshrines whiteness into the sort of geopolitical centre and the core regions of the medieval world, i.e. Europe. If you want to know more about the history, there's actually a really great book by Martin Lewis, no, not him, and Karen Vegan, called The Critique of Metageography, written in the 90s, and it goes into really great detail about this history, so I can recommend that if you want to know more. And of course, that filters through to today. Look at the ways in which the European Union got together after World War II to create a political entity of Europe. It just enshrines this idea of a naturalised planetary force, i.e. a continent, when it's nothing of the sort. It is a political ideology based in colonialism, based in whiteness.
How is it that we are people who've had 3 golden ages and most people hadn't even had one? And most people had one, never had another one. Did the Greeks come back? The Romans come back? When they were through, they were through. It was over. Why is it that we have carried the light from the beginning, lost it, and picked it up again?
Point for me was recognizing that I didn't even know the beginning of the 1948 story. I had assumed that the world would have been moral enough so as, even if the United Nations and the UK determined via the Balfour Declaration that, hey, war happens and now we're giving this and we're establishing Israel, I had assumed that they would have done that morally, that they would have said, here is the money for the home that you have lived in for thousands of years, the property that you have lived in. Here is money for that, but you have to go. That's not what happened. I mean, the Bella Hadid story is stunning. These people came on ships holding up signs about World War II saying, please, we're refugees, let us into your home. And the Palestinians opened their doors to them. This is the story of Muhammad Hadid and Bella Hadid. Yeah, the model, Gigi Hadid. He was an infant. His mother had just given birth. They allowed these refugees, these Polish refugees, to live in their homes as refugees because they wanted to help them following a world war. And then one day they came back to their houses and the doors were locked. They came home, the doors were locked, and guns were being held, and they were told, leave right now, or some soldiers are going to come murder you. Do you guys understand? Just go through that in your head. Wherever it is that you live right now in the world, imagine your family has lived on that land for hundreds and hundreds of years. That this has been your home for hundreds of years. And then you say, oh, you know what? The Ukrainian war is happening right now. I feel really bad. I'm going to allow a Ukrainian to live in my house, maybe here in Tennessee, live in my house. And you allow them and you share with them. And you do this out of the kindness of your heart, right? Because you are being taken over, perhaps by the spirit of Christ and charity. And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked. And those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That is how the land was given to them. That is a fact. No one can dispute that. There was no money. There was no trade. There was no conversation. They were effectively hijacked in their own homes. So the entire story of Israel has been immoral, okay? And it has really hinged upon our ignorance. We have all been ignorant, and it's time to stop. Because once you know the truth, now it is your burden to carry, okay? If you are truly ignorant and you support something, as I did, back when I was a Zionist, hitting the ground, talking about Israel, tweeting about Israel and how we must support Israel, then that's okay. That's going to be acceptable, because one day we're all going to have to account before our Creator. I have to hope that that is going to be acceptable, that it was truly ignorance and I believed that I was doing the right thing. But you now know this is not the right thing. And if you keep doing that, you keep doing that thing out of fear, all right, out of, I don't know, a jerk knee reaction because you're scared of being canceled. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be you when you meet your maker. I wouldn't want to be you when you have to stand before the Lord and account for what you allowed to take place, because those children are dying. They are being burned to death. They had been carpet bombed. The access to those images, it's at your fingertips. And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. You just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do. And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. You just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do.
If I am to prepare the war against Israel completely, no, I don't want very many Army, Air Force, and the Navy, just very few, and strike inside Israel and move people from the whole border towards Israel. I think the situation will be very difficult and very different.
You strike from inside with paratrooper, or
with the paratrooper, with everything completely. Yes, because you got to get there by paratrooper and also bombing by airplanes.
Happening in Israel and Palestine is not a holy war. It's an ethnic war where someone has taken a decision to get rid of a particular ethnic group. Without the EFF, majority of our people will not have known that there are people being killed in Gaza and they are being killed by Israel. This Israel was speaking about is not the one in Bible. This is the one that is driven by the devil, because no Bible encourages ethnic cleansing of other ethnic groups.
Esos judíos de las 12 tribus, que no son los que mandan hoy en el Estado de Israel. Los que hoy gobiernan el Netanyahu no es judío auténtico. Él es un cambalache que viene por allá de Polonia. Para los que les gusta hablar de religiones y dicen que esto es un conflicto religioso. No, esto no es un conflicto religioso. El conflicto que hay desde la fundación del Estado de Israel es un conflicto geopolítico, porque ese Estado lo crearon para conquistar todo el Medio Oriente y Asia Central y quitarle las riquezas y colonizar esos pueblos. Es el proyecto sionista, que dicen que van desde el río Jordán hasta el Éufrates y más allá.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So That's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is
there.
silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You believe
Israel.
that's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
Hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected...
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like... America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle is there.
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You believe
Israel.
That's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
When the man saw that he couldn't win the match, he struck Jacob's hip and knocked it out of the joint at the socket. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is dawn." But Jacob panted, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. He replied, "Jacob." "Your name will no longer be Jacob," the man told him. "It is now Israel, because you have struggled with both God and men and have won." Israel means God struggles, or one who struggles with God. Israel is a name, not a fucking country or nation. Fucking idiots.
And that's the thing that I don't get about the United States and our policy towards Israel. Okay, if it's such a good idea, why don't we do it here? Let's give the Israelis a homeland here that'll be Jewish only, and if you're not Jewish, you have to get out. And when you put it in those terms, suddenly it becomes maybe not so desirable. And then the other question is, Palestine obviously had nothing to do with the Holocaust. We're obviously doing this in part because of the Holocaust. Well, why don't we put it in Germany then? Why didn't we carve off a chunk of northern Germany and call it New Israel? Hamburg could have become New Jerusalem and just give them northern Germany, right? That only seems fair, especially since most of the Jews that we're talking about were either American Jews, and most of them were of German descent, or they were European Jews, and most of them were of German descent, right? There's a reason why Yiddish was the dominant Jewish language in Europe. Yiddish is just German with a Jewish accent and some Hebrew words. And Yiddish is also an awesome language, by the way. Some of the coolest words ever are Yiddish. But anyway, it's a different story.
Didn't they want to be close to Jerusalem and all that stuff like that?
Okay. But then you say, well, so then it's a religious thing, but most Zionists will go, no, this isn't about religion. And it's like, well, if it's not about religion, then why do you want to be so close to Jerusalem? Clearly it's about religion. But then they say, no, I'm an atheist, or I'm a secularist Jew, and I'm a Zionist. And it's like, well, then why did it have to be Jerusalem? This was our homeland. This was your homeland? You're 2,000 years old? I don't understand. Here's the twist. The majority of Palestinians are of Jewish descent and are ethnically more Jewish than the European and American Jews who went and created Israel. So every time a Palestinian is murdered by an Israeli, a person who's more Jewish is killed by a person who's less Jewish. It's true that the Israeli is actually practicing Judaism or is a secular Jew. And it's true that those Palestinians are Christians and Muslims whose ancestors converted from Judaism to Christianity and Islam. But it's just a weird, ironic twist. I mean, it's embittering how ironic it is. It just doesn't make any sense. And here's the problem. And I don't think I said this plainly last time, so I'll say it, and then I'll let you go because I'm way over, but I'm sorry. Let me just do this. The problem is if you said, okay, we're going to create a new state, and it'll be secular. It's not for one religion anymore. It'll be a democracy, secular, and there'll be rights for all minorities. And by the way, Muammar Gaddafi actually suggested calling it Isra'tin. Israel and Palestine, Isra'tin. So, it sounds terrible to me, but whatever. I don't care what you want to call this thing. Call it Israel, call it Palestine, call it Isra'tin, call it Israel, Palestine with a hyphenation like your parents did with you. I don't care. Whatever it is that makes you happy. But if you did it, suddenly there'd be 13 million Palestinians who are Christian and Muslim. I think it's like 10% Christian, 90% Muslim. And then there'd be 6 million Jews. So the Jews would become an instant minority in that state. And they don't want that to happen. That's why they're fighting the Palestinians. They're not fighting the Palestinians because the Palestinians are attacking them. The Palestinians aren't attacking them. They're fighting the Palestinians because they don't want to have Palestine integrated with them because they'll instantly lose their majority. There are actually 7 million Palestinians living in Palestine and Israel. But 5 million are confined to the concentration camp that we call the Gaza Strip. It's just a concentration camp. And then the ghetto that we call the West Bank. It's basically a bunch of little ghetto pockets. And so by doing that, what the Israelis have done is they've created a situation where the natives are in internal exile. Right? They're still in Palestine. They're just not in their homes. Their homes are in Haifa or Jaffa or Jerusalem. And so they're displaced inside their own country as a majority, but with no rights to citizenship. This is like the most nasty thing since apartheid Israel, apartheid South Africa. It might be worse than apartheid South Africa in some ways. In fact it is, when you think about it, because at least in the case of apartheid Israel, apartheid South Africa, there was no blockade preventing the import and export of goods into the black neighborhoods, right? Because white people were making money off of the black population, so you wouldn't do that. There was the same mass migration effect, 2.5 to 3.5 million. I just realized something. So I even said this in class earlier. So I've been the history I learned was the largest forced mass migration in human history was South Africa, when it became apartheid, forced 2.5 to 3.5 million blacks to move out of white neighborhoods. And by the way, and Asians too. The Indian population was also separated out. Well, the vast majority of the 5 million Palestinians living in Gaza Strip and West Bank are themselves refugees forced out of the rest of Palestine. So that's actually probably a bigger population. Because I would be surprised if it was more than 1.5 million people were actually from those two places. I bet 3.5 million are actually displaced refugees. Anyway, it's not the only refugee crisis we have. We also have now the Syrian refugee crisis and Iraqi refugee crisis. Jordan, the last time I checked, and I don't know how accurate these stats are, Jordan is like 25% Jordanian now. It's something like 60% Palestinian, 25% Jordanian, and the remaining 15% are Syrian and Iraqi. I mean, this is incredible.
Case in point, I'll give you something that happened in the past. You guys remember when Kyrie Irving, they went out and tried to cancel this man, cancel his entire basketball career, because he shared a link. He, absent any commentary, he went into Twitter and he tweeted out an Amazon link to a documentary. Now, if the reaction that he got, if nobody reacted, I don't even think anyone would have seen the tweet, honestly. It was so absurd. And it was a tweet to a documentary that was entitled From Hebrews to Negroes. And they just said, oh my gosh, he has to go through steps to be allowed back in the NBA. Skylar, actually, could you pull up what the steps were that they wanted Kyrie Irving? I should have had you pull this up before the show, but like, they wanted Kyrie Irving to go through 6 steps. And of course, the ADL was involved. They wanted to make him like donate money to the ADL, go spend time in Brooklyn with Jewish people, because he shared a documentary link, which, if you want to think, okay, if you're making the argument that we are the original Jews of this land and you're not producing any evidence to that effect, any person has a right to say, I agree with that, I don't agree with that, and you should just be able to debate it. And they were going to cancel Kyrie Irving's entire life. Let me know when you have that, Skylar. Okay, here we go. Sources: the Nets have delivered Kyrie Irving 6 items he must complete to return to the team. He must apologize and condemn the movie. He must make a $500,000 donation to anti-hate causes. He must go through sensitivity training, anti-Semitic training, meet with the ADL and Jewish leaders, and then meet with Joe Tsai to demonstrate understanding. All he did was share a link to a documentary. I kid you not. Agreeing with what's going on in Gaza, I got really educated about topics, and I was shook by the fact that they are canceling Kyrie Irving, Israel is, for information that actually came from Israel itself, or what was Israel, what was before Israel. It was really just Palestine before Israel became a nation. Look up Abraham Pollock. This is incredible. By the way, the thesis of that documentary is that these are not even the original Jews, that actually these are Khazars from a Turkic community. So there's this like Khazarian conspiracy theory, and they call this an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. I want to be clear to suggest that the people that are occupying Israel today are Khazarian Jews, are the Khazarians are from like the kingdom of Khazaria, is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. But now watch this. Skylar, pull up Abraham Pollock. And this is what I mean. It's the tricks that they play. Where did this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory come from? It came from them. It came from somebody who said, I want to figure out who the Ashkenazis are. And he was more than qualified to do it as an anthropologist. And he was living, Abraham Pollock, here we go. Abraham Nahum Pollock was an Israeli historian, a professor at Tel Aviv University, since its inception, professor of medieval history and founder of the Department of Middle Eastern History. His main areas of research were Jewish history, Arab history, nations of Islam and Africa, and the history of the Khazars. Now scroll down, and again, I am doing this all live, so it might take a second here, but essentially he publishes a book and says, aha, I've done it, my research is over. Actually, we are the Khazarians, and we are from a Turkic tribe. And they had these Turkic tribes, the Ishkenaz, the Ashkenaz, and that's who we actually are. I want to be clear. This book was published, the book called Khazaria, History of a Jewish Kingdom in Europe, and he states that the Khazars were the demographic foundation of the Jews who inhabited Eastern Europe, and this was such groundbreaking stuff that he did. Look at this. This is 1941. He says they then mass converted to Judaism. He was awarded Tel Aviv University awarded him, thank you for doing this research. Again, this is before the modern state of Israel. And then, guess what? He also, you can see there, he served in the IDF. So we're not going to call him anti-Semitic, are we? He served in the IDF through the formation of the state of Israel. So this guy gets awards from Tel Aviv University, and now he's serving in the IDF when they just kick out a bunch of Palestinians. And after they do this, they say, stop publishing his book because it doesn't help what we are trying to do. That's on the Wikipedia page. I want this to be shown that this is on the Wikipedia page. The rabbi said we should stop publishing this book because it doesn't help our argument that we're now making that we are the original Jews. This is on this Wikipedia page.
And the Moors went into Europe. They changed the appearance of the population. Do you see? So you have Italians, Spaniards being darker than the Scandinavians. A Scandinavian person told me that they never considered the Italians or Jewish people to be white. Do you see? Because the lighter people are further north.
Yo, Jewish people are the chosen people.
Wednesday, I'm going to Israel.
We do think we're elitist. We are the chosen people. Only the Jewish people are the children of God. The nations of the world are not the children of God.
Bye.
We're trying to transfer all your sins. That really, when a person does a sin, you're supposed to be killed. But God in His mercy says you can be spared. So we try to transfer the sins from you onto the chicken, and chicken gets killed, as you see over here. יוסי, אתה לא רגוע. יוסי, אתה מגזים.
The way empires rise is also the way they fall. America rose by colonial settler violence and expansion, and Israel is just a microcosm of that. They rose by belligerence and brutality and genocide, and this is exactly what's bringing them down now. Yes, it is violent. Yes, it is savage. Yes, it is criminal and horrific, and it's incredibly painful. But it's like water draining out from a pool. It moves faster and more violently at the bottom of the vortex until it disappears. What we're seeing now, in my opinion, is the dying spiral of American empire, and Israel is the drain that it's going down.
We are living through the final stages of the century of anti-colonialism. It's over. This European effort, several centuries old, to expand from the European core and to take over the rest of the world, either on the grounds that it was empty and therefore needed to be populated, which was mostly not true, or that it was peopled by inferiors who needed the blessing of the Christian religion, by and large, and modern civilization and advanced economics, and so was lucky to be colonized because it sped up all of those important activities. Okay, that worked for several centuries. It allowed capitalism to grow its market above all else, to source its inputs all over the world so that the profitability of capitalism could be maintained. If you remember, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and Karl Marx, each in their different ways, talked about a tendency for the rate of profit to fall, by which they meant the mechanism whereby capitalism would shut down its own economic development. This could be postponed, as Marx showed in volume 3 of Capital, if you were able to get cheaper and cheaper sources of raw materials and so forth, which the colonized world was good for. And the same applied to labor once you made that mobile, etc., etc. The last 100 years, so from the early 20th now to the early 21st century, has been the century of anti-colonial, the end, the pushback, the exhaustion of colonialism as the mass of the people, Asia, Africa, Latin America, each in their own way, at their own pace, shaped by their own cultures and religions and physical natural conditions, fought for independence, fought to be out from under the colonial yoke. And the last and final stages of that we are living through. And why? Why do I call it the last and final stages? Because I think there's something very basic linking U.S. policy in Ukraine, in China, and in the Middle East. And in each of those cases, it's an attempt to hold back the last stage of anti-colonialism, which is why I think it is a doomed effort. It will not work, whether it works in the immediate moment or not. This is going against history, and as history has shown us, you go against history, you lose. And we have been losing, one ex-colony after another. And why do I say they're all the same? Well, I'm going to focus, just because I don't want to keep talking, on China and the Middle East. Starting around 2010, the United States figured out, having deluded itself before that by pretending that China wasn't developing, by 2010, it was so obvious around the world that even the United States figured out that China had not only never been a colony, not only set itself the goal of undoing what is called in China the 100 years of humiliation, but that they had figured out this mixture of private and state enterprise, which could achieve economic growth rates that nothing in the West could come near, including the United States. From that time, it's about 20 years now, from that time, the United States has shifted over into trying to slow, to stop, to reverse the economic development of China. And none of that has worked either. Oh, here and there, they may have achieved some slowing. But the larger picture, as everybody can see, is China grows, American efforts to prevent it fail. Okay, now let's turn to Israel and Iran. You'll see the same thing. Israel is an anomaly. It is a settler colonialism after that's no longer possible. The only settler colonialisms that ever worked, which are a model for Israel, were the settler colonialism that literally, genocidally killed all the local people, whether they be the Maori or the Aboriginals in Australia or the Native Americans here in the Western Hemisphere. But that's over. You can't do that anymore. You cannot extinguish the local population because the local population has friends, has associates, has supporters. The Palestinians are not in the position that the Maoris were, or the Aboriginals in, or the American so-called Indians, etc., etc. So it's a hopeless quest. But the United States needs them. It needs them as their proxy in the Middle East because the Middle East has a lot of oil. Okay, so now the Iranians enter. The Iranians are part of the whole rebellion against colonialism. The modern Iran is the rebellion against what the United States did to the Shah, to Mossadegh back in the 1950s. And yeah, they had a temporary victory. They put in the reactionary Shah, who was a pawn of the West. But eventually, because it's history, the Shah was overthrown and ends up a sick old man protected by Henry Kissinger because the project of controlling Iran is over. Yes, it was captured by the religious rebellion. That happened often because the West was so busy killing off the revolutionary socialist communist opposition that it left either the proxies of imperial or the religious community. You saw that in Iran. They got rid of one of the largest and most powerful communist parties anywhere in the so-called third world, the Tudeh party in Iran, which if you go back and study, could have and would have been the revolutionary leadership of that country. You got rid of the equivalent in Afghanistan so that it was the Taliban, the religious, the very people armed by the West to destroy the revolutionary anti-imperialism gets replaced by the religious anti-imperialism. It's the irony of it all.
One of the wildest things in America is that whiteness comes with the luxury to opt out of reality. Not just ignorance, but the freedom to choose ignorance. Let me explain this in a way that cuts through the noise. White people get to decide which truths apply to them. They can turn off the news, mute a conversation, avoid a neighborhood, ignore a law, dismiss a statistic, and suddenly racism becomes a debate topic instead of a daily reality. That's not an accident. It's a shield, a cushion, a loophole. It's the ability to walk through a burning house and claim, I don't smell smoke, because their room isn't the one on fire. Meanwhile, the rest of us are choking on fumes. Black people don't get the option to not think about race today. We don't get the distance. We don't get the insulation. We don't get the luxury of pretending systems don't shape our lives when those systems marked us before we could talk. And here's the part that always makes folks uncomfortable. Robin DiAngelo called it out directly. The hallmark of white fragility and white privilege is insulation, the ability to wreak havoc, watch it land hardest on Black people, then vanish into comfort like a magic trick. That disappearing act is the biggest form of inequality this country still refuses to name. Because if they ever stopped and acknowledged the flames, they'd have to admit they've been warm and comfortable this whole time while everyone else was fighting for air.
The Europeans began to manipulate history when they rose and began to expand into the broader world in the 15th and the 16th century because they had to justify the slave trade and they had to justify the colonial system that followed. And modern racism has its incubation in that period. You cannot enslave a man and say he's a human being, that he has humanity, and that he was one of the forerunners of the world's religion. You cannot enslave an African and say this about him. Because if you say he's a human being, then you're saying he's an extension of you. Then you cannot sell an African Christianity and call him a heathen and acknowledge the African contribution toward the creation of Christianity. So it's a contradiction. The European had to literally strip history of the contributions of non-European people.
You're saying that the church was involved in the slave trade or just sat by and said nothing?
The church has taken responsibility. The Catholic Church, the Pope, John Paul II, who's traveled the world around, has gone to Africa in the beginning of this decade, in the 80s, and apologized publicly to Africans for the church's involvement in initiating the slave trade and sustaining the slave trade and helping to maintain it.
All of this is documented in Eric Williams' Capitalism and Slavery and a whole lot of other books, and his updating of the documentation is in his last book, The Caribbeans from Columbus to Castro. I mean, we're not talking about something we have to even search for. The evidence is so apparent.
I hear tell that that ships that set sail had to be blessed. Is that so? And that went as well for slave ships?
Practically every slave ship that left the ports of Europe was blessed by either a Roman Catholic priest or a Protestant minister. And even the monstrosity of it all can be seen in the East Coast Africa, where in Mombasa, one of the slave forts is called Fort Jesus. We all know about the ship, the good ship Jesus, that was one of the slavers making its way around the coast and across to the New World with our people captive in its hull.
In 1604, King James I of England authorized what would become the King James Bible, a monumental English translation used by millions. He didn't write it word for word, but he chose the scholars, set the translation rules, and approved the final edits. Some historians describe it as his political masterpiece. He shaped its tone, its structure, and in many ways, its power.
My mother didn't know that King James was King of England. She just thought God sent him here to write this. She didn't know King James was such a weird, strange homosexual. He hated women so bad he killed his mother, and his lover was Buckingham Palace. His name was, his lover was Lord Buckingham, who Buckingham Palace is named after. Oh, come on, y'all. So where do you go? Where do it go?
This is a picture of the man who wrote the King James Version of the Bible, or at least he's given the credit for writing it. He was a supreme slave master, King James. In fact, it was King James who threw slavery into high gear. In fact, it was the slaves were brought to Jamestown. They named, in 1619, they named the place where they brought the first slaves after King James, the Bible man. Okay, so we have to start really looking at these things. Of course, King James dealt very, very highly in witchcraft. Most of us are familiar with his book, the Bible, but how many are you familiar with his other book? Is there anybody in here familiar with his other book? He also wrote a book on witchcraft. And this is a library book, so I didn't write it or anything, but you can send the pictures back up here, because I need to keep them together. Thank you. Oh, okay, send them around this way. This is a picture, this is a copy of King James's book on witchcraft. Particular book on witchcraft, he deals with the art of imitation. See, the media is all about imitation. Children were often the victims of witches. So we have here, now these are not black people on this picture. These are Europeans. And they are doing their sacrificing children. You will see a nun kneeling, and you will see, but they're kneeling at the behind of a goat.
When you tell the truth about Africa, you're going to take the cover of a whole lot of people and a whole lot of fakery palmed off on us as religion. That include Hebrewism, Islam, and Christianity. Everything was brought into Africa from the outside, did Africa more harm than good. All organized religions were male chauvinist murder cults. And yet you had spirituality in Africa before that did not murder people, did not justify taking people's country based on the fact that my God said it's all right. And all the organized religions of the world have used it to justify their murder of other people. I think had man gotten common sense instead of religion, the world would have been much better off. But he had to have spirituality, because it is spirituality that lifts man higher than the dog.
What baffled me from the beginning was the Bible itself. I could not find my people in a book that's supposed to be about all mankind. And what called my attention to the neglect of Africa was the Sunday school lessons with all those white angels. And when they said God is love, God is kind, God is no respect of kith or kin, I kept wondering, why didn't he let at least one or two little brown or black angels sneak into heaven? So I began to suggest that somebody else had tampered with God's book in favor of somebody else, and that the Bible to a great extent was a rationale for European domination, but had been used as such. Religion is the organization of spirituality into something that became the handmaiden of conquerors. Nearly all religions were brought to people and imposed on people by conquerors and used as the framework to control their minds. My main point here is that if you are the child of God and God is a part of you, then in your imagination, God's supposed to look like you. And when you accept a picture of the deity assigned to you by another people, you become the spiritual prisoners of that other people. All right, now let me conclude something that has no conclusion. We have to look at the impact of Europeans on Africa. All impacts have been negative. The Romans laughed at the early African Christians. Finally, for political reasons, they stopped killing Christians and became Christians. I'm saying the Europeans became Christians for political reasons, as the Arabs became Muslim for political reasons, and as the so-called Jews became Hebrews for political reasons. People use organizations for political reasons, and what we get so dewy-eyed and think we're dealing with the truth.
In order to understand the religious basis of racism, we have to go back to a papal bull that the Pope issued in 1455 in an argument between Portugal and Spain. He turned to them impatiently and said, "You are both authorized to reduce to servitude all infidel people." And it just so happens that most of the so-called infidels were non-European people, non-white people. Europe not only had its basis for racism, it had its basis for the slave trade, and this same basis would be good in the colonial system that followed. Racism was created to justify the slave trade, to justify the colonial system, and to justify the utter ruthlessness that had to go into the making of modern capitalism.
I question the intelligence of anyone who thinks the Bible is true or supposed to be true. Yet I read it as a great book, a fine piece of literature, a great book of spiritual lessons, a great book of allegory, illustrating great spiritual lessons. I take it for what it is. But when Noah plants grapes one day and drink the wine the next day, wine don't ferment that fast. Come on. Nobody ever explained Adam and Eve and their sons and why they got the wives for it, but they were the only people on earth. The flood was supposed to destroy the whole world, didn't touch Asia. If you read James Frazier's 3-volume work called Folklore of the Old Testament, one whole volume is devoted to flood stories. All people in the world had that different version of flood story. You know one version of it. The one the Jews preserved for you, that's the one you know about. You don't know about these other flood stories, these other Noahs, because you don't read that much. So when people palmed this story on you, you thought it was a new story. John Jackson said that if Christ had risen 2,000 years before, he could have read his own autobiography. Because they picked him up and placed him inside of an already existing story. When St. Augustine heard about the conference at Nicaea, he said, these people are giving us a religion we had 3,000 years ago. They make me laugh. Now, what has this got to do with the New World Order? It has to do with because the imprisonment of your mind around concepts that you have not properly examined had made you a pawn in somebody else's game. Because you have not examined the game. And the game was to control you It is a successful game because you have not examined the players and dismissed the game.
To the Western mind, religion is the deification of his culture and his desire for power. The Arabs made Islam a rationale for the slave trade. The Jews made Judaism a rationale for taking land that never belonged to them, not even in ancient times. The European made Christianity a rationale for his prejudice and his enslavement of other people. He never dared to use it in a Christian way. And I'm saying that this is a carbon copy and a debasement of the original. I'm not trying to take it away from you. I'm trying to show you the original copy as against the carbon copy. Now, the carbon copy might frighten you because you're so accustomed, the original copy might frighten you because you're so accustomed to the carbon copy, it might be a little hard for you to take. But all of these religions existed in another form before someone called them by these new names. Now, someone brought up in class last night that Islam came out of Africa. And I said, yes, the elements came out of Africa. But the religion in its formal sense is an AD religion and not a BC religion. Because you cannot bring me in Islam before you bring me the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad wasn't even born until near the end of the 6th century. Now, if you bring me in Islam before you bring me the Prophet Muhammad, you have to tell me where you got it from. If you say the elements that ultimately made the religion existed, I'll accept that. But you said the religion was there, then I'm going to ask some questions. What are you talking about? Then if you say, like some of the brothers in Manhattan, our religion started, God made the first Muslim, his name was Adam, then I have to tell you, when did Adam read the Quran before everybody wrote one? The first visitors to Africa came in the 1700s BC. These were the people who would later be called Hebrews. Now, black people are ticklish on this because black people think that everything in the Bible is true. I question the intelligence of anyone who thinks everything in the Bible is true or supposed to be true. It's allegory, stories told to illustrate a point at a time when there were very few people reading books. And most of what went into the making of the Bible was copied from Egyptian texts. Now, if you want to get so dewy-eyed over the Bible, which is a carbon copy of a carbon copy, why don't you go back and read the original Egyptian text? Then you see where all these stories started from. You see where the story of the Exodus started from. Now, you get so dewy-eyed, you actually think there was an Exodus. These people walked into Africa. Why couldn't they walk out? Why did they have to go by sea? Nope. Why did they see at the park? If you read Egyptian literature, you will discover that the whole story of somebody parting the sea started with about 3,000 years before the Hebrew entrance. I should not use the word Hebrew entrance, before the entrance from Western Asia. Now let's get one thing straight, because black people are confused about all religions. Now I'm not against any religion. I'm a very spiritual human being. I just don't need a preacher to preach no 10 Commandments to me when he's a backslider going with some other man's wife. I'm intelligent enough to pick from the 10 Commandments, not commandments anyway, but they were omissions of purity at the great school at Luxor, great African training school. All right, now, let's get into this Western Asia. I'm saying that the people who came from Western Asia escaping famine did not have any Hebrew faith when they came into Africa. And there's no record of a Hebrew faith before that. Why is it that when they left Africa in the so-called Exodus, they had all three? African culture, an African religion, and an African language. Now look at the origin of the so-called people you now refer to as Jews. And you're mistaken using that reference because the word Jew is of European origin. And the people in Europe who call themselves by their name have no relationship to the biblical people. of the Hebrew faith. And I'm saying that the people we now call Jews entered world history with that visit to Africa. And when Africa was invaded, 1675 BC, instead of joining the Africans who had been their beneficiary and saved them from starvation, they joined the enemies of Africa. No one has ever returned any favors to us. As a people, we have always been hospitable to strangers, mostly the wrong strangers. And what we have to understand now, in the period of superior brainwashing, is there is no European answer for African problems. Either Africans find a solution to African problems, or there is no solution, and if you don't find a solution soon, you go back into slavery.
What are we going to tell our children about that period in human history before the first European wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window, and we produced enduring societies? We did not have a word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. Didn't have a word for orphanage because no one had ever thrown away children. Didn't have a word for nursing home or old people's home because no one ever threw away grandpa and grandma. If we could fashion a society that had that much humanity, what can we do for ourselves today? And how can you explain the contradiction of a people who can build the pyramids and can't maintain a candy store in Harlem? Spirituality from religions and understand that out of our spirituality came the world's religions, and that we have been naive and let people take from us the basis, the elements, make religions and come back and sell them to us. Once we understand that, and that we had a much better version of the same religions before their former creation, then once we recover from the shock of discovering that we had something better than what was sold to us, rehashed from our elements, then go back and take the great spirituality we had and move with it. And once we understand what we were and where we are, we will understand what we have to be and where we still have to go. Spirituality is a way of accepting the fact that there is a spiritual force in the universe larger than all of mankind. But someone had to come along and invent a word called God. And someone had to say of another God and say, mine is better than yours. And someone had to create faith. Someone said, I have the true faith. Religion is the organization of spirituality into something that became the handmaiden of conquerors. Nearly all religions were brought to people and imposed on people by conquerors and used as the framework to control their minds. My main point here is that if you are the child of God and God is a part of you, then in your imagination, God's supposed to look like you. And when you accept a picture of the deity assigned to you by another people, you become the spiritual prisoners of that other people.
Now let me explain this. If I take a person on birth and tell him everything that he don't see is real and everything he does see is a hologram, is an illusion, then he'll have another perception on life. This is called because you think because it's physical, it's real. It's the other way around. The physical is an illusion. You're going by these two eyes, which is a cheat. But when the third eye opens, the illusionary world disappears and the real world begins. So what you call the spirits is is the real world. So when you talk about death, those are the people that started living, and you are the people that's dead. But the only thing that is real in you is the sun inside. That's why you are the S-U-N of God. In the west shall rise up the Son of Man. Not the Son, S-O-N of man. It's the S-U-N in man. The Son in man. Called the black dot. You see, the black son, the Abraham, sons and daughters of Abraham. Abra, which means son. Ham, which means black. Apraxis in the Gnostic religion. Bethlehem, Beth, which means house. Ham, which means black. Son in black Bethlehem. The star in the black house, the black body. This is the Bethlehem, your temple. This is the temple of God. The sun in Bethlehem is the sun inside of you. That's the only thing that exists down here. And the Jews is laughing because the first books of the Quran and the first books of the Bible is all goddamn the Old Testament. Now come on now, let's not be stupid with this mess. You can't have the angel Gabriel to come to visit Muhammad and he happened to be a damn Hebrew. Ain't that a bitch? You know what I'm saying? And Jesus just so happened to be a Jew. It's all Jewish conspiracy. You see what I'm saying? If the Quran has never been revealed and it's the most holy book, why it's got the first 5 books of Moses? If the Bible is so holy, why it's got the first 5 books of Moses? And we don't supposed to go by the Old Testament. Wait a minute, this is an oxymoron. You got a fucking Bible that you tell everybody who ain't a Christian they need to go by the fucking Bible. But yet in your Bible you don't supposed to go by the first 5 books in it. That's ignorant. If we don't supposed to go by the Old Testament. Wait a minute, hold on. The first 5 books of your Bible is the foundation of your book. How the fuck you not gonna? That means your book is falsehood. Because the Old Testament is your fucking Bible.
Lucifer is the Christ. That's why in the Conference of Nicaea, as Alvin Boyd Hume, the great massive scholar of the 1940s, said, they had to take the amount of times that the word Lucifer appeared in the Bible and get rid of it down to one time, because you would draw a parallel. That Lucifer and Christ is the same. Whereas in Genesis, they said Lucifer fell like the morning star. But by the time you get to Revelations, Christ said, I am the morning star. You see?
The God of Christianity is this particular God, the devil. The God who created the earth in 7 days. That's the devil. Yaldabaoth came and created 7 planetary archons, or 12, which would be the ones in this particular zodiac. So they make this physical body, which is this. But it couldn't stand up. So Newt comes back to recorrect things. She tells Yaldabaoth to breathe life into the physical body. When he breathed life into the physical body, the little bit of light that he had went into the physical body. When the archons and Yaldabaoth realized that the God or the man that they had created was greater than them, they basically tried to destroy them. He said, I am a jealous God, and let it be known I shall have no gods before me. So if you want to identify that, that's the biblical God. But he didn't bother to look up and see that there was gods before him. To recorrect that, the highest God, which is Sirius, which is a reflection of the mother, said that I have to go down to the earth and go into incarnation and ransom myself off because I'm higher than him, I'm more powerful than him. And I have to ransom myself off so I can redeem the physical bodies that he used to trap the souls in. Y'all get this? So as a result, the most ancient star, which is Sirius, broke pieces of her off and sent it to earth to incarnate into the physical bodies and hide itself in the physical bodies, and that's called the hidden God, Amun-Ra. It broke the pieces off. And each piece that is broken off is the seed of Soot, which is Sirius, or Set in here, or Seth in here, which ain't got nothing to do with the evil Seth, which is in each and every one of us, called melanin. The energy that was of the original creator that created the universe is in you. And as a result, you went through this hell, and later on, because you have the original creator in you, you later day will redeem yourselves. Full circle. You can eat from other trees in the garden, but don't eat from the tree of life, which means don't tap into your melanin, which is the original seed that is over me and bigger than I am. Because now, because you have the original seed, you are above me. We built Atlantis. And so, as a result, this particular God caused the flood. And based on this flood, they killed off thousands of our people or whatever. We escaped and we built Egypt. By this time, he caused invasions from the original counterfeit spirits, which is the white people, that came and ransacked that. So the Egyptian mystery system was a system made to turn you into God to get a certain amount of people past the realm of incarnation, reincarnation. Because the Yaldabaoth to make you to forget. You forget all your stuff because when you reincarnate, you come back in that baby's body. You forget all your stuff. Come back pissing and shitting and all this kind of thing here and crying and all this here. And you forget things. And that's the way that they can make you forget things and keep you in bondage over and over with the reincarnation. So the yogis would burn the body real fast, so because they lost the art of getting to the heaven realm, they would reincarnate fast enough so they wouldn't forget. The Egyptians was different. The Egyptians had the science the Kamites had the science on where they could fool the body. What they would do is mummify the body, and a Yaldabaoth would still think that the body was still down here because it hadn't deteriorated, and the soul would slip past, and they would reincarnate and have to come back to a body because that body hadn't deteriorated. Now remember, the yogi people, once the body is disintegrated, they would come back fast because the Yaldabaoth would send them back down. But the Egyptians used to fool them and mummify the body, and they would think the body was still on the earth because a Yaldabaoth is blind and he can only see the physical body because he can't see the original soul, the spirit. He's a blind and idiot God, and an ignorant God, and an arrogant God. So the Egyptians used to mummify the body so they can get off the damn planet and escape while the body was still down here. And they would trick the damn Yaldabaoth because they was the masters.
What we call God is nothing but a whole bunch of energy. That's an unmanifested energy, which really ain't shit. Nothing. It's called the nothing. It is through man, who is the agent, that is the perfecter, or what you call the perfecting agent. It's almost like you got an old fat ass old man about 90 years old, and he's in the head of a crime family, and everybody is scared of him, not because he can go out and kill. The hit man actually goes out and actually kills. So in actuality, we are the only manifestation or the only energy of God, period, because that's called nothingness. That's it. And from the nothing, you get the absolute. It is. So in actuality, it's an extension. It is an extension of the same action. You see what I'm saying? But as far as it being a higher power, it ain't shit. It's nothing. It's not anything for the simple fact that it made itself to be something, and what it made itself to actually manifest was us. So we are the only manifestation of that what you call God. You see,
when you die, you don't have a fucking physical body. And guess what your soul is? Fire. Right there, it's fire. Energy. So, let me get this right. You got a fire soul that's going to be amongst fire, and everything down there burning and up there burning, But yet you're afraid of being burning, that you're already burning because your goddamn soul is fire. You see, if you look at the logical aspect, you don't have a physical body when you die, so how in the hell can you burn? So what is hell? Hell simply means when the soul takes on a physical body. Your physical body is hell. It is the defilement. And this existence is the worst existence to ever be. It's horrid, horrible. You see what I'm saying? It's called Hylics. Those who live in the physical world. You get it? Now you got to break this thing down. Asura, they say that Asuras are demons. Demons only mean bound gods. A bound deity. Okay? I don't want to use the word God. They are bound deities. Once a deity is bound, it becomes a concealed demon. Now, the only way that you can be bound, only way you can bind a demon or a deity is encase him into a human, he or she into a human body. So that means that our souls are demonic in nature. I'm not talking about in the wicked form that you know of. You getting this? Now I want to get this. Satan is bound. You ever hear Satan being bound? When you bind something, you can only bind something when you place it in a human existence. So the Asuras, they say that most people walking around is walking around in a perpetual dream. They're not even awake. So it's just raw senses, and they're just hoping they don't bump into something the wrong way. Although their eyes are open and they're talking like this, they are asleep. So it's the difference between a people being awake, and a people walking around dead and sleep. Well, they say that most people walking around is walking around in a perpetual dream. They're not even awake. So it's just raw senses, and they're just hoping they don't bump into. That's where the ancestors go when they leave your body. They go and live inside of you. They live inside of you. That's where your ancestors are. Each man has his own universe, and when the ancestors go, they live inside of you. We get too much respect for the ancestors, and the ancestors ain't nothing but a damn nigga that lost the body. That's it. You understand what I'm saying? And some of them are confused too. Don't let nobody fool you. Some of our ancestors and some of the gods are lost because they are random energies in an abandoned zoo. And the only reason why how they ever get to the particular point where they're directed the right way is you got to conceive of it and you got to line it up, because the simple fact that's our task. The gatekeepers in the aspect of the homosexuality, or just say gay. And when you first hear this, you go, oh man, that's some bullshit. Some of the people that was key in our revolution and liberation was gay or, bisexual.
The gatekeepers. The words gay and lesbian do not exist in the village, but there is the word gatekeeper. Gatekeepers are people who live a life at the edge between two worlds, the world of the village and the world of spirit. Though they do not marry in this world, they say they have partners in other dimensions. What they do, they don't like to communicate to anyone. It is their right to keep it to themselves. Everybody in the village respects that, because without gatekeepers, there is no access to other worlds. Most people in the West define themselves and others by sexual orientation. This way of looking at gatekeepers will kill the spirit of the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers in the village are able to do their job simply because of their strong spiritual connection, and also their ability to direct their sexual energy not to other people, but to spirit. The gatekeepers stand on the threshold of the gender line. They are mediators between the two genders. They make sure that there is peace and balance between women and men. If the two genders are in conflict and the whole village is caught in it, the gatekeepers are the ones to bring peace. Gatekeepers do not take sides. They simply act as the sword of truth and integrity. There are many gates that link a village to other worlds. The only people who have access to all these gates are the gatekeepers. Now, what would happen if you're dealing with a culture that doesn't care about these gateways? What happens is that a gay person cannot do his job. Gatekeepers are left unable to accomplish their purpose. This is one of the most distinguishing factors about gays in the village. Now, as to their sexual orientation, nobody cares about this question. They care only about their performance as gatekeepers. I figure if they want people in the village to know about their sexuality, they will share it with them. I once heard that one of the reasons why gatekeepers are able to open gates to other dimensions is in the way they use their sexual energy. Their ability to focus their sexual energy in a particular way allows them to open and close different gates. The life of gay people in the West is in many ways a reaction to pressure from a society that rejects them. This is partly because a culture that has forgotten so much about itself will displace certain groups of people, such as the gay community, for their true roles. In the village, they are not seen as the other. They are not forced to create a separate community in order to survive. People do not put a negative label on them. They are regarded no differently than any other child of the village. They are born gatekeepers with specific purposes and are encouraged to fulfill the role they're born to in the interest of the community.
First of all, what I'm reading from here is before the damn Bible, it's for the Quran, it's for the Torah. This shit even is before Egypt. This is the material, shit come from Atlantis. So this is the book, Hermetica. So now we ain't dealing with no religion here. Now I want you to just hear that shit what it just said here. The Creator. You say, oh, the Creator, who created man? Who created motherfucking man? Not us. You are before creation. You the fucking Alpha and the Omega. You are darkness. Before there was light, there was motherfucking darkness. You get this shit? The Creator who created man. You ain't no motherfucking man. Man is what you became after you fell. The reincarnation thing, in so many words, is an incarceration. Now, a couple of things happening in this dispensation of time. In this dispensation of time, when a lot of people are dying now, they have found out that that particular realm, that light that used to snatch them back down here is very weak, and it does not snatch the memory away, and they are able to not reincarnate now. And a lot of them are going to the underworld plane. So you got different planes. The Egyptians tell you to go to the underworld. That's where Osiris is. The Osirian realm is different than the astral realm. You got two realms. There is the astral plane, which is nothing but a form of the matrix. And all you see. Then you have the underworld realm, which is where the most ancient souls go, if you have enough knowledge to get there. Before you had to have enough knowledge to get to that particular land of Osiris, the kingdom of Osiris. Now what is happening here is the astral plane, which is the world that is leaving. Just like you got the physical world here that we say is leaving, the astral world is also comprised of that same matrix. And it is leaving, so it's very weak. So a lot of the ones that used to reincarnate is not reincarnating anymore. Now, ask this other question about what it has to do with race. Has a lot to do with race. One guy went on to the astral plane back in '93. Brother in Atlanta went to the astral plane. He said it was a room full of white people. He was astral traveling. He said, God damn, what the hell going on? It was one night. He said, then a black figure stepped through the room, like appeared through the white people, which was an illusion, and grabbed him and took him into a room full of black people. You see what I'm saying? So it's a matter of the alchemical energy on where those souls go, but they never go off track. Now, in the white area, you can have ancient souls incarnate into white bodies because it's only dealing with the shell. So you just have a few of those, like 2%. But you can't have a lesser energy incarnating into a higher power conductor. You see what I'm saying? Movie. How many people saw this movie, The Island of Dr. Moreau? Now, The Island of Dr. Moreau is a movie that was made from H.G. Wells' book, The Island of Dr. Moreau, that H.G. Wells was, his contemporary at that particular time was Rudolf Steiner. And so he read Rudolf Steiner's Atlantis and Lemuria, which is the same Yakub story, the creation of the white man. And based on the Yakub story and Rudolf Steiner's story of the creation of the white man, based on that they had the god Manu. So he just changed it to Moreau. that created a race of people on a certain island. The same thing that the Yakub story that Elijah Muhammad talked about. So now, this movie came out Friday, and they deal with that whole thing.
Why you make the pain? If we are your children.
You see, you are my children, but law is necessary.
If there's no more pain, then is there no more law?
Always law.
Pain no more.
Good God.
They needed a law how to behave. Hell, look what he did with the damn book. The white man. Can you imagine what happened if he didn't have the book? This motherfucker done killed you with the damn book. Can you imagine what happened if he didn't have no law? Shit, you'd have been a memory. At the end of the movie, when he went in jail, well, naturally, where did you find God? That's what they said in the book, the Nephilim, the one in the comic book store. And when you go get the movie Unbreakable, they said that what Samuel L. Jackson told you, he told you what I've been telling you for years. I believe anything that you really want to find, you go to the comic book store.
I believe comics are our last link to an ancient way of passing on history. The Egyptians drew on walls. Countries all over the world still pass on knowledge through pictorial forms. I believe comics are a form of history that someone, somewhere felt or experienced. Then, of course, those experiences and that history got chewed up in the commercial machine, got jazzed up, made titillating cartoon for the sale rack. This city has seen its share of disasters. I watched the aftermath of that plane crash. I watched the carnage of the hotel fire. I watched the news, waiting to hear a very specific combination of words, but they never came. Then one day I saw a news story about a train accident, and I heard them. There is a sole survivor, and he is miraculously unharmed.
Remember? In this movie, in the comic book called The Nephilim, occult role-playing, the Nephilim are talking about the gods that used to rule prior to the creation of this realm or universe. They're called the Nephilim now. They say, well, where are the Nephilim? They say, you'll find the damn Nephilim in the jailhouse. They're talking about black men, black people, period. It will be the downtrodden. When he got in jail, he saw a black man. That's where black people are. And the black man was in jail telling him how to deal with Satan, but he giving misconstrued. He started was a nigga under the cell, under his bunk bed. And he misconstrued, he forgot to ask the guy who he was. And at the end of the movie, they told you who the black guy was. He was God.
Oh, come on, baby. Come and sit down. I know this has all been horribly overwhelming for you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure you can. You can ask me anything you like, as long as you don't ask me if there's a God. I get that one all the time. Drives me absolutely bonkers. Yes, there's a God.
Really? Well, what's he like?
You know, you'd think that meeting the devil would be interesting enough, but no. All people want to know about is him. Like, he's so bloody fascinating.
So he's a man?
Yeah. Most men think they're God. This one just happens to be right.
He's a devil, that one. What?
I said she's a devil, that lady cop.
Oh. Yeah, I guess.
So what you in for, brother?
Eternity.
Ooh. That's a long time. You must have did some really bad shit.
Yeah. I sold my soul.
Hope you got something good for it.
Matter of fact, I got nothing for it.
Well, that's a really bad deal if you ask me.
Well, I'm not asking you.
Doesn't really matter, though. Can't sell your soul anyway.
Oh, really?
Why do you say that? It doesn't really belong to you in the first place. No way, no how. So who does it belong to? Belongs to God. That universal spirit that animates and binds all things in existence. Devil's gonna try to confuse you. But that's a gig. But in the end, you're gonna see clear to who and what you are and what you're here to do. Now, you're gonna make some mistakes along the way, everybody does. But if you just open up your heart and open up your mind, you get it. Who are you? Just a friend, brother. Just a really good friend.
In jails now. But they say there's a lot more than just them being oppressed. Basically, they are rebellious in nature because they have been around long enough subconsciously to see different laws change over the years, especially with these damn white boys. So therefore, they are rebelling against the actual laws and stuff. On a spiritual level, they are rebelling against the confinement of their spirit not being able to manifest on a high level. We go into some ancient, some other metaphysical things tonight. We're going to break down certain laws that restrict us at this particular time. So let's go on. Moses anointed Aaron because Moses anointed Aaron. The Hebrew mythology, it was first an elaborate mythological system that was later on historicalized.
Talk about that ideology at this point. And it has to be an ideology of revolutionary nationalism. See, this country fosters the idea of competitive individualism. In other words, like he divides people. He divides you. He tells you, be an individual, do your own thing. You cannot do your own thing if your own thing is not the right thing.
What they was talking about, we're going through now. Like endless and endless amounts of pain and suffering. It's just like when you look up one day and say, man, I made it. You see what I'm saying? Next day you lose your job. It's just over and over, endless amount of pain and suffering.
We the apocalypse kids. Apocalypse kids. Forging our way, this world don't make no sense. It don't make no sense.
When it seems the most dismal and bleak, that is because if our situation seemed to be a lot better, they would be killing us in mass.
It's all about the evolution. We finna lead the revolution. The spirits on our side say we really dumb guys. I will never capsize. On my wave they wanna ride. Sitting with divine self in my health. Always on the top shelf. Can't sleep up. Living in a dream world. Wake me up.
Talking to the gods. Believe it or not, you are gonna be the people that's gonna get your people out of this shit. That's bottom line. If you are here now, right now, when you can be someplace else, that's because they have chosen you even though you don't know it yet. And I'll show you in the book of Revelation where you're going to be the light bright. It's simple. There's going to be an army, an elect army that's going to come to get the rest of them out.
You realize I'm the only one? Do you realize I'm the chosen one? Move to the side, bro, you overdone. When we arrive is when the show begun. That other side is lacking magic, baby. You need to roll with us. We don't be exaggerating. That frequency that you've been dealing with is aggravating. Don't make no sense to roll with them, not over us. Introduce you to some things you should finally know. Like the truth between the different.
follow Yahweh back. Yahweh, whether you follow the Nation of Islam and the Minister Louis Farrakhan, they took an elect few people that's supposed to be the light bringer to get the rest of the 60 million out here, and 80 million in Brazil, and billions across the world. That's the disperse.
No one has ever returned any favors to us. As a people, we have always been hospitable to strangers, mostly the wrong strangers. And what we have to understand now, in the period of superior brainwashing, is there is no European answer for African problems. Either Africans find a solution to African problems, or there is no solution, and if you don't find a solution soon, you go back into slavery. As for friends, you have had no friends. When they discovered you, they began to prey on you. Who are you kidding about friends in the world? Damn it, if you want a friend, look in the mirror.
You spoke about religion before, and your background as a Baptist. What do you have a religion now, or?
No, I don't need a religion.
Okay.
I need a spiritual belief system as part of my life.
Okay.
I have that. I'm satisfied with that.